Welcome to the Soul Archaeology podcast, a space for connection, resonance, witnessing, and learning. Together we'll harvest medicine from the spiral of life, sharing conversations with other embodied humans who have navigated their own initiations and found alignment with their true soul essence. With weekly astrology, energy updates, embodied conversation, and channeled teachings, this is a space for you to land and find resonance with the spiral of your own soul. Hello, welcome back to Soul Archaeology. We are nearing the end point of a very long Mercury retrograde. I don't know about you, but it has felt long and murky and just this incredibly weird in-between liminal space where everything feels a little foggy beyond time and space. It's really interesting. And, we've had this push and pull kind of back and forth for a long time. I mean, last year was definitely one of those years. We still have some of that happening this year, especially when we think about the ignition point of 0 degrees Aries being activated February 20th. We had eclipse season during that. And then we moved right into this Mercury retrograde. So there's a lot of heat and fire that got activated, and then we sort of dropped into this deep pool, this vast ocean of Piscean energy. We're also at the end of the astrological year. We're at the end of winter here in the Northern Hemisphere. We're at the end of a lunar cycle. We have so much new, fresh energy with all the outer planets and new signs and the first degrees of new signs. But we're still in this kind of murky place of deep trust and faith. And it's important to note, I know I talked about this in the last few episodes, but it's just important to keep in the front and center of your awareness right now that even if you cannot see what's unfolding, even if with your eyes you cannot see the change that's unfolding or the transformation that's occurring, does not mean it isn't real, does not mean that it isn't unfolding. And this is where we are. We're having to develop a deeper sight, a sight that is beyond the physical, beyond the 3D, beyond what our eyes can see. It's a sight that knows, can sense, and feel into the deeper vibrations and undercurrents of this existence. And that sight is fed and sustained by a deeper belief, faith, trust. I always tell my clients when we're working on psychic development that our psychic abilities are deepened through trust and faith. The more we experience something and share something, even if we don't have the proof, it starts to build the muscle. Messages become clear, our clairs become stronger, and it's simply fed by faith and trust. It's fed by confidence in our connection. So we're in a bit of a training ground right now. We are working to develop our deeper sight. We are working on developing a deeper connection to God, Source, this great web of belonging. And I've talked a lot about this in past episodes. If you haven't listened to the last 2 or 3, 4 episodes, go ahead and go back. All of the information applies to now. We're still in this energy. And this week, we have quite a bit of an energetic shift because we've been in this Mercury retrograde. We've been in sort of held in this liminal space during eclipse season. And this week we have the Spring Equinox. We have Mercury stationing direct. We have a new moon in Pisces. And all of this starts to close out, 1, of course, the astrological year, and 2, eclipse season, because we have our first new moon that's not an eclipse since the new moon eclipse, solar eclipse in Aquarius in February. And this week, before Mercury stations direct on the 20th, it meets with Mars in Pisces. So on March 15th, Mercury retrograde in Pisces meets with Mars in Pisces. They form a conjunction. And then on the 18th, we have a new moon in Pisces. On the 20th, we have the Spring Equinox and Mercury stations direct. So it's significant that Mercury stations direct, we have the Spring Equinox, the beginning of a new astrological year, entering into the spark of life, of creation, of fire, exactly 1 month after the Saturn-Neptune conjunction at 0 degrees of Aries on February 20th. So we've been holding on this last month, and we've arrived to a time where the fire starts to build. But before we go into that, because I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, we're still in Mercury retrograde. We're still in Pisces season. We're still sort of hovering at the edge, at the end. This is the final dissolution before the astrological new year. This week kind of carries a feeling of standing at the shoreline. Behind us has been this entire astrological year. You know, we entered into 2026, but we haven't technically left 2025 behind because the page hasn't turned on the astrological year. I believe this is when we will really truly start to feel the energy of new beginnings. Pisces is the final sign. It's completion, surrender, forgiveness, the unseen, the unknown, dissolution. And this particular new moon in Pisces happens at 28 degrees, so it's the very end of the zodiac. It's also meeting in a weird way with Neptune and Saturn, which are freshly in Aries, but it's at this point where Saturn and Neptune were just hovering for 2 years. So this is a karmic point. This is the end of something. And like I said, we're just sort of hovering here. It's been beyond space and time. Pisces is the sign out of all the signs that reveals to us the true nature of our reality, which is that time is not linear, that so much of what we see is just a tiny, tiny fraction of what's real, that our physical eyes cannot carry us only through this life, and that we must have trust and faith and surrender in order to move through the womb of the Great Mother, the great unknown, the magic dark, the great void. So we've had Mercury, the planet that rules our mind, that rules processing and perception, swimming through the waters of Pisces. And when I think about Mercury here, it's very uncomfortable because if you've ever been diving, you know that sometimes it can be disorienting, especially if you're in deep water, looking around and everything can look the same. The light plays tricks on you and the water can feel so vast. And that's what I feel this Mercury retrograde has been like, is just this disorienting time where we technically know where we are. We're in our bodies, we're here, we're present, but everything around us feels maybe a little uncertain, or we cannot quite tell what the next step is or the direction we'll be heading. And maybe you're so comfortable with this trust fall, it feels good, it feels helpful, it feels supportive, it feels safe for you, and maybe not. Maybe it feels really uncomfortable. Maybe there's this natural sort of innate wiring to control, to grip harder when you're in a space of great unknown. Regardless, the medicine is more trust, more faith. I have been in a place of really having to trust fall at the moment, and there are so many things I don't know or I can't figure out, and I am continually returning to the medicine of my North Node in Pisces, continually returning to that transiting North Node in Pisces that's saying, this is a fruitful, fertile time. And even if you can't quite see what's being formed or what's being shaped or what you're creating, there are seeds being planted and there's a path unfolding for you. So I'll talk more about that in a moment, but I really want to just touch on Mercury retrograde meeting with Mars on the 15th before it shifts direct on the 20th. So it's activating something. Mars is our passion, our will, our drive, our action, our instinct. It's how we assert ourselves. It's how we move through life. Mercury is our thinking, our communication, our perception, our mind, it's information. And when they meet, both of these areas of life are activated. Our mind, our perception, the way we think, our beliefs are active with our nervous system. The mind and the nervous system can feel heightened when these two meet, especially in a Mercury retrograde, because like I said, we had the Cazimi, so we hit the bottom of the descent of Mercury. Now we're moving up. So Mercury is shifting out of its descent. It is ascending technically, but it's not quite at the surface. It's not where it will begin to move forward quite yet. So there's still a lot of unconscious material here. There's still a lot that hasn't necessarily been brought fully to light, but that we're retrieving within ourselves. And because Mercury isn't fully direct, we're going to have some maybe confusion, some lack of clarity. So Mars likes to activate emotion. And when we think about it in Pisces, it's activating our emotional center in a big way. So this looks like experiencing a lot of emotion without really understanding what it is. And that's what can unfold in the early parts of this week. Emotional overwhelm, memories that are surfacing that you can't quite place or you're not quite sure what to do with them, subconscious material rising, and activation of our dream space. Now, the key here is to just note it, to pay attention, to notice the emotions, the feelings, the charge moving through your body. Maybe you don't need to make sense of it. Can it just be there? Can it just be okay? Can you just move with it? Can you shake? Can you scream? Can you push? Can you jump? Can you move in whatever way your body is asking of you without having to figure it out with the mind? It's very likely that what surfaces is not actually new, but very old material surfacing, coming back around. This can be old anger, old grief, old shame, resentment. It is looking for a way up and out. Mars is hitching on to Mercury as it emerges, as it ascends through its descent. And it's saying, let's just get in here and let's let go of some of this charge that was attached to old memories, to old experiences that is ready to move. But we don't need to make sense of it. And it's right before a new moon in Pisces as well. So the invitation here is to notice how you would like to react and potentially doing the opposite, or creating some space for yourself just to move with your emotions, to proactively process, I like to say. Maybe it's a morning practice that says, instead of meditating today, I am just moving. I am moving my body in whatever way I want to, whatever way it's asking for, putting on some music and just moving, feeling, giving yourself space to do that before you hit these experiences that are here to bring these emotions that want to be released forward. On March 18th at 6:23 a.m. Pacific, we have a new moon in Pisces at 28 degrees. And it's interesting because this new moon is not an eclipse, even though the North Node is in Pisces, technically still. It's at the early degrees of Pisces. So this new moon is not connected to the lunar nodes. So we're beginning something new here. We're technically still at the edge, the end of the astrological new year. So new moons are new beginnings, but we're at the end of something. So this new moon reminds us that time is not linear, that we live within the space of endings and beginnings always, the space of death and rebirth, death and creation, that these cycles are layered upon one another, that we're always in the process of losing something and gaining something else. This new moon is a reminder that seeds grow in the dark first, that they grow in the deep, dark womb of the mother, the soil. We may not be able to see those seeds growing. That's not the point. Right before the spring equinox, this new moon is reminding us that we have to have faith and trust that things are growing, that new life is emerging, that the seeds we have planted are gestating and living within the nutritious soil we've created through the composting that we've done for many, many years now. The letting go, the shedding, the death, the release, feeding it with our trust, feeding it with all of this, all of the nutrients of our process. Trust that seeds are there even if we can't see them, because seeds grow in soil. We know that. And we're not sitting there digging up the soil and looking to make sure the seed is growing. We're trusting that it is. We have to. And this is an essential phase in the process. This reminds us that in order to manifest and grow and expand, there's a phase where first we must deepen into trust, faith, belonging, surrendering, trust in God and Source. This isn't a time for certainty. This is a time for faith. And Pisces is the unseen. It's the great mystery. It's where endings meet beginnings. And at 28 degrees, we're right at the end of Pisces. Not only Pisces, but the end of the zodiac. Just hovering here right before we enter the 0 point of Aries on March 20th with the Spring Equinox, the beginning of Aries season. And Pisces is the last sign of the zodiac. It's closure, completion, union. It's where boundaries dissolve. It's both the tomb and the womb. It's completion and gestation. So it's where we lose something and begin something new. It's death and rebirth. It's a waiting period. It's a liminal space. It's a space beyond time, beyond walls, beyond boundaries. It's vapor. It's all things and no things. And Pisces teaches us that this is all a simulation. It teaches us that gripping leads to suffering, that our sense of control is an illusion, and that we're simply a part of this great sea of consciousness. And the practice, and especially what the North Node in Pisces has been teaching us, is that we must find ways to be okay with this. We must find ways to be okay with the not knowing, with the unseen, with the unknown, with mystery. We must find ways to resolve our need for control. And new moons typically begin cycles, and this is, of course, beginning a new lunar cycle, but this is also unusual because it sits at the end of the zodiac, a place of completion. Before Aries season ignites something new, Pisces dissolves what is finished. So this new moon is about release, forgiveness, reconciliation, trust, surrender. What's interesting is that this new moon is very close to the 0 point of Aries as well, the ignition point. So we're starting to build a story here. It's bringing us back to the last year where we were sitting at the end of Pisces, Saturn and Neptune. This really brings us back to March of 2025. We had eclipses, a total lunar eclipse in Virgo on March 14th last year, which was opposite the sun at 23 degrees of Pisces. So there is a revisiting here, even though we didn't have an eclipse in Pisces in March of last year. There's this revisiting, and we also had Saturn and Neptune at the late degrees of Pisces then as well. So there is a regression, a regressive energy around this new moon, but it's different this time. It's simply a revisiting, and this is what we need to remember, that life is a spiral and time is not linear, and that although it feels like you're being pulled back into something, you actually are not. And we have to be able to separate this in order to move forward. And this new moon is technically conjunct Neptune and Saturn at the early degrees of Aries. So this new moon kind of activates that 0 point of Aries again. I'll talk more about that when we talk about the Spring Equinox on the 20th, but this is the exact meeting point of death and rebirth. What are we still needing to release and let go of? Where can we still deepen into trust a little bit more? The world is insane. It feels totally crazy right now. Everything feels weird. It's hard to tell what's real and what isn't. I mean, there's psyops happening on many different levels and layers. There are crazy AI videos. It quite literally feels like we're standing at the end of times, at the edge of an entire era of our species. And so I think this new moon is bigger than just the end of an astrological year and the beginning of a new lunar cycle. With this new moon, we're meeting the end of something very large, the end of an era of humanity. And standing at the threshold, waiting to see what this next era will look like. There are so many theories and ideas and predictions, right? But we don't actually know. But what are you choosing, even in that unknowing, that not knowing? We're still living and breathing. So what are you choosing? What comforts you? This is a big part of Pisces. Pisces can, in its shadow, lean towards escapism because we're met with the vast unknown. It can be too much for our nervous systems, which is why we've been in the deep apprenticeship with Virgo and Pisces, helping strengthen our nervous system so that we can meet this great unknown. What soothes that? Maybe it's touching into that great unknown, touching into that vast space of darkness that we cannot predict. And then coming back to what is predictable, what's real, what's right in front of you, what you can choose daily. That's comforting and reassuring. People with late degree mutable placements, Sagittarius, Gemini, Virgo, Pisces, will feel this new moon more strongly. And there's still work to do here. There's still more we can let go of. There's still more we can surrender. There's still more faith that we can integrate as we move into the spring equinox and Mercury stationing direct, the beginning of Aries season on March 20th. And the spring equinox activates the creator point, the 0 point of Aries, the ignition point that was activated exactly 1 month before this on February 20th by Saturn and Neptune. So on the spring equinox, the sun will cross this space. It will cross the balance point, the beginning point, illuminating the part of your chart and dissolving what's false within that space. Saturn and Neptune just began a new 36-year cycle together. They're at the early stages. We're 1 month in. And we know the sun is consciousness. It's light. It illuminates what's hidden, what's dark, what needs our attention. So it's activating the 0 point of Aries. We're moving from 29 degrees of Pisces into 0 degrees of Aries, activating the balance point of light and dark. The spring equinox marks the beginning of Aries season and the start of a new astrological year. It's when the sun crosses the celestial equator, moving from south to north. So this year it falls on March 20th. Day and night are equal all over the world. And we start leaning into more light. With the fall equinox, we start leaning into more darkness. With the spring equinox, we start leaning into more light. It's also when fire is activated. We begin Aries season. We hit the creator point. Fire is creation. This is one of the most ancient turning points of the year. And it's really significant this year because Mercury also stations direct on this day. It begins moving towards fire, moving towards Aries. As we enter April, the fog lifts. We begin to move forward again. Conversations begin to clarify. Momentum returns. This is a time of rebirth, renewal, that fiery spark of new beginnings. It's the I am point. So it's activating both Neptune and Saturn. Neptune first. We have the Neptune Cazimi as well, where the sun meets with Neptune. And this is a point of truly, truly dissolving what's false. Activating new beginnings, moving towards heat, fire, creation, letting go of the past. This is an invitation to truly, truly let what's false dissolve within you, within your life, within your psyche, to move towards creation, to move towards the future, to choose new life. I chose to begin my group mentorship, The Vessel, on April 3rd because I wanted to begin it with this fresh energy of Aries, really fully immersed in the energy of this new year. And in this container, we will be learning to master the art of manifestation, of expansion, but rooted, grounded growth, evolution, healing, walking hand in hand for 12 months through the threshold of 2027 when the entire world changes with a group of amazing awakened women. I was called to create this to bridge 2026 and 2027, two of the most significant years of our lifetime. And I'm so excited. It's such an amazing group that's already formed. And if you've been called to it, there's really only 2 weeks left to join. So there's just a few spaces left. I would love to have you. I will link The Vessel in the show notes. There's always a few people that join right at the end. So I'm just noting that and wanting to make sure there's space for everyone. So if you've been wanting to join, now is the time. I would love to have you. And wow, this week, this is a big one. And I know it's uncomfortable, but listen, it might actually be wise to really just soak in this energy of Pisces a little bit longer, because I'm telling you, once we move through the equinox, once planets start to shift into Aries, it's like wildfire. So it's going to pick up really fast, really quickly. And it's important that we have the resources and the tools to root, ground, anchor, so that we're not swept up in this fire. That's what I teach in The Vessel too. So yes, I know so many of us are ready to just jump on this momentum. And it's very fast. It's rapid. And so we're going to be manifesting very quickly in real time. So it's important we note where we're manifesting from. That's what this Mercury retrograde has been revealing to us. So it is confronting. Many people have been saying crazy fears, things they thought they worked on surfacing. And it's just to see this is what's here. And we can work with it. And we can still create beautiful things. And the card that I pulled today from the Untamed Elemental deck is the Ladybug card. And it's all about miracles. I love this card because it relates to Mother Mary, and I'm so connected to her. And this is it. Every time I see a ladybug, it just feels so like such beautiful medicine. So it says, when European farmers prayed to Mother Mary for a miracle to protect their vulnerable crops, Ladybug arrived to devour the pests. The farmers, surprised that divine intervention could come in such an unsuspecting form, called her Beetle of Our Lady, and we know her now as Ladybug. Ladybug signifies a miracle. But remember, when you expect help to appear in a specific form, her gift can sometimes be overlooked. So keep an open mind. Divine assistance is improvisational, playful, and surprising. It is a lucid discovery, like tiny ladybugs saving a whole season of crops. The same goes for the miracles that await you. Prepare for the possibility that they will be just as unexpected as they are mighty. When it's balanced, you feel receptive to unexpected forms of support. When it's imbalanced, you are holding rigid expectations that block magical interventions. To bring into balance, practice playfulness as a magnet for divine intervention. And I love this so much because I always say that in order to receive what you truly desire, you have to have open palms, which means you aren't gripping to what it looks like or the outcome, but that you're open to receive. So, thank you for being here. Thank you as always for sharing this episode. If you love Soul Archaeology, if you listen every week, I would so appreciate if you joined my Substack. I have it linked in the show notes. This is a way to support the production of this podcast. I produce it on my own. It takes many hours every week. I love doing it, but I have no sponsors. So if you're wanting to support the production of it so I can keep it free, keep it, out of a private podcast, I would love support on Substack. It's $8 a month. It's the same price as a latte or a matcha if you're into that sort of thing, at least here in LA. And it's just a way to support the production. So I also, it's not just, supporting the podcast, but you also get deeper dives. I write articles about things that I don't necessarily cover on the podcast, personal bits, deeper dives into certain astrological themes or energetic themes that I like talking about that I'm interested in. I did a deeper dive on Saturn and talked about all the significant Saturn transits in the last article. So I would love to have you there. It's $8. You can join. It's automatic withdrawal. So you can also just donate on my website. It can be a reoccurring donation that you donate every month, which is so amazing and sweet of you. If you can't donate, even just sharing with a family or a friend means a lot to me. It helps the podcast.